At the party, my girlfriend lost a round of truth or dare. Someone in the crowd yelled out a dare. Name 10 things you love about Connor's best friend, Jared. Lauren didn't even pause. He's outgoing, super good looking. In great shape, he knows exactly how to work a room. He's always smiling. He reads people while he's driven, and he's got great taste, and he's really good with his hands. The room lost at whistles. Laughing and a couple of pitying looks aimed my way next round. Jared grinned and flipped it. Back on her okay. What about Connor? What's he got? Lauren looked at me. She froze. Finally, she got out one word, daddy somebody. Laughed, trying to break the tension. And what else? Lauren frowned. She was actually thinking. About it, she couldn't come up with a second thing. Sitting in that silence, I just felt tired, bone tired. 7 years together, wedding was next week, and after all that digging, the only good thing she could find in me was that I was steady. I didn't want to be the steady one anymore. Why I was about to slip out when someone slapped the table. Don't leave yet, Connor, last round. Let's do something messy. Whose phone has the most texts with one person? Jared tossed his phone down, laughing, sure. Nothing to hide. Then the results came up, and the room went dead quiet. Lauren's number one contact. Wasn't me, it was Jared. A couple of forced chuckles. Well, guess those two have a lot to talk about. Jared didn't miss a beat. Come on, it's not like that. Connor's always slammed, you know. Guy carries a lot. Lauren gets stressed and just needs someone to vent to. While he was talking, finger tapped into one of their threads, accidentally maybe. A message from Lauren popped up on screen. Connor's obsessing over the wedding. Schedule again, he's taking this way too seriously. Jared, he's just wound too tight. Not like me, getting married should be fun, Lauren, right? Talking to you is so much easier than talking to him. Something cold spread through my chest. Then the screen scrolled to another thread. Lauren. Connor wore that white suit. Again today. Does he really think he pulls that off, Jared? I'll be nice, but you not as look kind of stiff. Lauren, right, you'd look way better in it. Nobody said anything. I stood there with a lump in my throat, my face burning. Breathing felt like work. All that quiet excitement I felt trying on my wedding suit. To her, it was just something funny to text Jared about. Jared came over and slung an arm around my shoulder. Hey, don't be mad if it was anybody else talking to her like that. I handle it for you, but I'm your best friend. He tilted his head, all innocence. I'm just looking out for her for you. That's a good thing. Right, I looked down at his hand on my shoulder. There was a watch on his wrist. It looked familiar. A few days ago, Lauren sent me a photo of it from a work trip. Asking if I liked it, I stared at that photo for a long time, typed back. I love it, felt like a kid about it. I thought she was bringing me a surprise. I'd even planned to act surprised, ask if she got me anything. Days went by, nothing. Now it was on Jared's wrist. I pulled my shoulder out from under his arm. Jared's face went red, all wounded. Connor, you seriously don't trust me? Lauren finally frowned. Connor, it's a game. Don't be so sensitive. And just like that, the anger drained out of me, nothing left but empty. I stood up, my voice came out barely. There, I'm tired. I'm going home. I got to the door before I remember my coat on the back of the couch. When I turned back, the door hadn't shut all the way. Through the crack, I heard someone talking low. Lauren, you're seriously not going after him? He looked white as a sheet. Lauren paused a second, then, completely sure of herself. He won't stay mad. He's too sensible. He'll sleep it off. My hand stopped on the door handle. Then she added. Jared looked really uncomfortable with everyone teasing him, though. I should go cheer him up. My fingers went numb on the metal. Sensible like a dull knife, no blood, just slow sawing. I didn't go back on my phone, buzzed the wedding coordinator, Mr. Davis. Are you sure you want to cancel? You've spent over 6 months on this. Flowers, the lighting, the invitations, the seating cards, you picked every detail yourself. It'd be a shame. I looked at the renderings he'd sent. I remembered wanting white camellias everywhere. Lauren took one look and said, Jared says camellias look washed out. A wedding should feel alive, so camellias became red roses. Jared's favorite, I wanted soft, warm, gold lighting. Jared says sunset, orange photographs. Better. I wanted simple, textured paper for the invitations. Let's just go with what Jared says. He's got great taste. Finally hit me. The wedding I'd spent half a year building had been quietly turned into Jared's wedding, and I was just a name on the invitation. Another text came in. Are you absolutely sure? I looked at the rendering of a wedding that wasn't mine anymore and let out a dry laugh. I typed, yes, cancel it. I'll cover the fees. Back at the apartment, I started packing. We picked this place together, Lauren promised me the entry light would always be on when I got home late. Pot of soup on the stove. Camellias on the balcony sounded like a dream. Standing in the living room, I realized the place was already full of Jared. His peach seltzers filled the fridge, his jacket on our couch. Even the best man suit hanging next to mine looked better tailored, better taken care of than my own tux. I stood in the closet looking at the two of them side by side. My chest ached. The wedding hadn't even happened, and she'd already swapped me out for him everywhere in her life. I didn't cry. I got my suitcase and started packing documents. My passport, some clothes. Halfway through, the front door opened. Lauren was home. She had a small shopping bag and a soft, let's make up voice. Hey, babe. Don't be mad, okay? I passed the store and saw these. You said you liked obsidian. She opened a velvet box obsidian cuff links. I did love obsidian. Years ago, I stood outside a shop window staring at a pair, then walked away. Because we couldn't afford them, Lauren squeezed my hand and said, when we get married, I'll buy you a better pair. Now she bought them cuff links. I don't wear French cuff shirts. Jared, does she hug me from behind? Let's just forget tonight, okay? I was looking down at the cuff links when a slip of paper fell out of the bag, the receipt. The total was huge, a designer tie. 10 times what the cuff links cost. I knew the brand right away 30 minutes earlier. Eric had posted a photo on Instagram wearing that exact tie, grinning like he'd won something cabbage. Wedding gift from a very special sponsor. About to be the best-looking best man alive. I stared at the receipt, and one hot tear dropped onto the paper. Lauren's patience vanished instantly. Why are you crying? Again, Connor, seriously, dealing with you is exhausting. I froze. There was a time my tears would have scared her. She used to wipe them away. Clumsy about it, pull me in and say over and over, Connor, don't cry. Kills me when you cry. Once after a nightmare in the middle of the night, she drove across 3 neighborhoods to bring me hot soup, she said. Nobody was there to comfort my Connor when he was a kid. Now on every time you cry, I'm here back. Then she meant it. Now I was just exhausting. When your tears stop meaning anything to someone, you wipe them yourself. I wiped my face. My voice came out flat. I'm fine. She looked relieved. She leaned in to kiss my cheek, and I turned away without thinking. Her face went cold. She dragged a hand through her hair, whatever, cool off. He walked into the study and slammed the door. Later that night, I was turning off the lights. When the iPad on the nightstand lit up, her messages synced to it. I only meant to shut the screen off, but the name on it made my chest go tight. Jared, did you smooth it over? Lauren, no, he's getting harder to deal with lately. Jared sent a smirk emoji. Jared, so did you make it up to him in bed? A few seconds passed. Lauren, please. He turned me down. Lauren, honestly, it's fine. 7 years. I don't feel anything for his body anymore. Kind of relief, he pushed me away. Otherwise, I'd have had to force myself. I read it twice, my eyes burned. But there was nothing left to cry. So even being touched by me was something she had to brace for. I shut off the iPad. I put the cuff links back in the box and set it on the entry table. Next to it, my ring, like returning what was left of a dream. I'd finally woken up from my phone buzzed. Ticket confirmed, 3 a.m. flight to Iceland from now on. Whatever city I landed in wouldn't be next to her the next morning. I rolled my suitcase past the study. The door was cracked. Lauren was laughing softly inside video call. Jared in his pajamas, leaning back against his headboard, holding a print out of our wedding vows. Lauren, this part is way too stiff. He read, laughing, Connor, thank you for 7 years of companionship. Sounds like a CEO giving a speech. Lauren laughed. I'm bad at writing that stuff. Jared propped his chin on his hand. Write something like like spring, you make me feel light. Isn't that better? The call went quiet. That sounds more like you, Lauren, said, almost a murmur, a beat of silence. You sure you want to say that to Connor? Then Jared asked. He didn't answer right away. Then it's a wedding. Doesn't really matter who I'm reading them to. Just pretend I'm secretly saying them to you. Standing in the hallway, something tore quietly in my chest. I'd spent nights on those vows, 3 pages, writing, cutting, rewriting, taking out anything that sounded like a cliche, until only the honest parts were left. I once asked her, should we write them together? She waved it off. No need for that kind of performance. It wasn't that she thought it was a performance. It was that doing it with me wasn't worth the effort. On screen, Jared leaned in and dropped his voice. Come closer. Lauren frowned what he didn't answer. He leaned forward and pressed his lips against the camera lens. A long, ridiculous kiss. She didn't pull away after a second. She just sighed. Jared, stop. I'm getting married. Jared looked down, doing that soft voice thing I know. That's why I wanted to be selfish one last time before you belong to someone else. She didn't tell him off. The silence was permission. My fingers went cold. If she really thought he'd cross a line, why didn't she hang up? Jared pulled up another file. The layout for our photo wall. Do we really have to put up all these old couple photos? Honestly, seeing how happy you two used to be kind of stings. Lauren looked at the screen. Then, we could take them down. Connor's easygoing, he won't mind heat. Pushed behind my eyes, that photo wall was the one thing I'd fought to keep. 7 years, the first snow we watched together, our first road trip. Holding hands in the car, the lopsided cake she baked for my birthday. I spent hours picking those photos because they were the proof. One comment from Jared, and she dropped them. 7 years, I treasured to her an inconvenience. I think when you hit the limit of what a heart can take, it stops hurting. It just goes numb. I turn around and pull my suitcase behind me. Phone lit up. Coordinator, Mr. Davis. Miss Lauren just confirmed removal of the photo wall. Also, Mr. Jared has revised the wedding vows. Are you certain you want to cancel? I read it and smiled a little. I typed yes. Cancel. A cold morning air came through the stairwell as I walked out. My suitcase wheels clicking on the concrete. 7 years of photos. Gone in one sentence from Lauren, so I left Lauren behind in those 7 years too. As I handed my boarding pass to the gate agent, the automated cancellation notice finally hit Lauren's phone. She called the coordinator, immediately voice tight. What is this supposed to mean? He sounded more confused than she was. Mr. Davis requested the cancellation himself. He mentioned he took a position in Iceland and probably isn't coming back. Miss Lauren, you didn't know? The coordinator's voice was faint, vibrating through the small speaker of my phone as I stood at the departure gate. I didn't stay to hear her reply. I didn't need to. I slid the phone into my pocket, the screen going dark, and handed my passport and boarding pass to the gate agent. Enjoy your flight to Reykjavik, sir, she said, her voice carrying a polite, practiced warmth that felt entirely foreign to the cold, hollow cavern of my chest. Thank you, I murmured. I stepped down the jet bridge. The air grew cooler, smelling of jet fuel and the sterile, damp chill of a late autumn night. With every step I took away from the terminal, the phantom weight on my shoulders seemed to shift. For 7 years, my life had been a series of micro-adjustments, a constant balancing act to keep Lauren happy, to keep Jared comfortable, to keep the peace. Now, there was nothing left to balance. I had dropped my end of the scale. As I found my seat by the window and buckled myself in, my phone began to vibrate in my pocket. It didn't just buzz. It shuddered with a frantic, desperate energy. I pulled it out. Lauren's name flashed across the screen. Missed call, Lauren 1. Missed call, Lauren 2. Text, Lauren. Connor, what is this? The coordinator just called me. Why did you cancel the venue? Text, Lauren. Answer your phone. This isn't funny. Where are you? Text, Lauren, Connor. Then, a text from Jared. Text, Jared. Bro, what did you do? Lauren's hysterical. If this is about the game, you're taking it way too seriously. Let's talk. I looked at the blinking screen. A week ago, a single missed call from Lauren would have set my heart racing. I would have abandoned whatever I was doing, apologized for being unavailable, and done whatever it took to soothe her anxiety. But looking at her text now, I felt only a profound, exhausting silence. I held down the power button. The screen faded to black, and with it, the noise of my old life vanished. The plane pushed back from a gate. As the engines roared to life and we lifted into the dark, cloudy sky, I leaned my forehead against the cool glass of the window. Below me, the sprawling lights of the city where I had built a home, planned a wedding, and lost myself, shrank into tiny, insignificant pinpricks of gold before being swallowed entirely by the clouds. I was 29 years old, and for the first time in my life, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen next. And for the first time in 7 years, I could breathe. Reykjavik in late October was a landscape of basalt, ice, and relentless wind. I had accepted a transfer to our firm's Nordic branch months ago, back when it was just a tentative proposal on my director's desk. At the time, I had laughed and turned it down, telling him I was getting married and settling down. But I had never officially taken my name off the list. When I called my director from the taxi on the way to the airport, he hadn't asked questions. Meticulous, steady Connor was a valuable asset. They were more than happy to have me oversee the new sustainable housing project in the capital. The first few weeks were a blur of practical necessities. I found a small top-floor apartment in the old west side of the city. It was sparse, with white walls, exposed wooden beams, and a small balcony that looked out over the gray, churning waters of the Faxafloy Bay. There were no peach seltzers in the fridge. There was no designer jacket thrown carelessly over the back of the sofa, no lingering scent of expensive cologne that wasn't mine. There was only the smell of fresh cedar, black coffee, and the cold rain tapping against the glass. I spent my days at the office, throwing myself into the structural drafts for the new project. My colleagues here were quiet, independent people who respected boundaries. They didn't ask about my past, and they didn't tease me for being precise. In fact, they appreciated it. Your attention to the load-bearing tolerances is exceptional, Connor. My supervisor, an older Icelandic man named Berger, told me one afternoon as we looked over the blueprints. Many young architects rush the foundation to get to the flashy glass facades. But a building without a proper spine doesn't survive the winter here. A building without a proper spine. I stared at the blueprints, remembering how I had spent 6 months meticulously planning a wedding, only to watch the bride and my best friend swap out the foundation piece by piece until it collapsed under its own hollow weight. Yes, I said quietly, tracing the clean, black ink lines on the paper. The foundation is the only part that really matters. At night, I walked. I bought a heavy wool parka and a pair of sturdy boots. I walked along the harbor, watching the yellow lights of the fishing boats bobbing in the dark. The cold air was sharp, scraping against my lungs, but it felt clean. It felt honest. Occasionally, the habits of 7 years would rear their heads like phantom limbs. I would see a strangely shaped cloud or a beautifully designed storefront and instinctively reach into my pocket for my phone to snap a photo for Lauren. My fingers would hover over the screen before the cold reality settled back in. I had kept my old phone off, tucked away in the bottom of my suitcase. I had bought a local burner phone for work and emergency contacts, giving the number only to my sister, Clara, and my supervisor. For the first month, I didn't check the old phone. I was afraid of the ghosts. I was afraid that if I saw her voice, even in text, the fragile peace I had built would shatter. But by the end of November, the first heavy snow fell on Reykjavik, blanketing the city in a quiet, muffled white. I sat by my small electric heater, drinking a cup of dark herbal tea, and finally pulled the old phone out of the suitcase. I plugged it in and turned it on. The phone shuddered, nearly freezing under the sheer volume of notifications. Hundreds of texts, dozens of voicemails, emails, and social media tags. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I didn't need to hear her voice to know the cadence of her anger or the soft, manipulative tone she used when she wanted to smooth things over. Instead, I opened the text threads, scrolling past the initial wave of fury from the night of the flight. Lauren, November 2nd, Connor, please. This is insane. Your mother is calling me. My parents are demanding answers. The venue won't refund the deposit because you canceled it. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Lauren, November 5th, I know you're hurt about the game. It was a stupid game, Connor. Jared and I have been friends for years. You know how he is. He's like a brother to me. You're completely misinterpreting everything. Lauren, November 10th, where are you? Clara won't tell me anything. She just said you left the country. How could you just abandon me like this? After 7 years, I deserve more than a text message. Lauren, November 18th, Jared and I had a fight. He said I shouldn't have let you walk away. He's stressed too, Connor. Everyone is blaming us, but we didn't do anything wrong. Please call me. I scrolled further down to Jared's messages. Jared, November 3rd, Connor, man, you've got to come back. Lauren is a wreck. I know the text on my phone looked bad, but we were just messing around. You know I'd never actually go there. You're my best friend. Jared, November 15th, seriously, dude? You're gonna let a silly joke ruin our friendship? I thought you were the sensible one. This is childish. Jared, November 24th, Lauren's staying at my place temporarily because she couldn't afford the rent on your apartment alone. She's crying every day. It's putting me in a really tough spot, Connor. You need to come resolve this. I let out a soft, dry laugh. It's putting me in a really tough spot. Of course it was. Jared loved the thrill of being the secret harbor Lauren ran to when she was bored or stressed. He loved being the good-looking, charismatic best friend who could charm his way into her thoughts and take the credit for her smiles. But Jared didn't want the actual work of a relationship. He didn't want the messy, grieving, stressed-out version of Lauren that came with a ruined wedding and a public scandal. He didn't want to pay her rent, and he certainly didn't want to hold her hand while she cried about another man. The mirage had vanished, and now they were forced to look at the dry, barren earth underneath. I selected all the messages, marked them as read, and then, one by one, blocked their numbers. I went into my email and set up a rule to automatically archive any emails from Lauren or Jared into a folder I would never open. Finally, I opened Instagram. I had deactivated my account weeks ago, but I reactivated it briefly to do one thing. I searched for Jared's profile. It was public. He hadn't posted much recently. The flashy, confident photos of him working out or hosting parties had slowed down. His last post was from a week ago, a photo of a dimly lit bar, a half-empty glass of whiskey, and a caption that read, "Tired of carrying everyone else's baggage. Ready for a clean slate." I scrolled down to a post from early November. It was a photo of his wrist, featuring the expensive designer watch Lauren had allegedly bought him during her work trip. In the comments, a mutual friend had written, "Nice piece, man. Lauren has great taste." Jared had replied, "She knows what looks good on me." I stared at the image. The watch, the white suit, the camellias, the vows. The anger that had once felt like a hot, suffocating lump in my throat was gone. In its place was a quiet, cold clarity. They deserved each other. They deserved the hollow, exhausting game they had played, and they deserved the empty prize they had won. I deactivated my account again, turned off the phone, and put it back in the suitcase. I walked over to the window. Outside, the northern lights were beginning to paint the sky in ripples of pale green and violet. I stood there for a long time, watching the lights dance over the cold ocean, feeling the quiet rhythm of my own heart. I was steady, but I was no longer theirs. By February, Reykjavik had settled into a deep, frozen peace. The days were short, but the light, when it appeared, was a brilliant, pale gold that bounced off the snow-covered volcanic peaks. I had adapted to the rhythm of the city. I had a favorite coffee shop down by the harbor where the barista knew my order, strong black drip coffee and a cinnamon cardamom bun, without me having to speak. I had joined a local winter swimming club, plunging into the freezing Atlantic Ocean once a week before running into a wood-fired sauna. The shock of the freezing water felt like a physical resetting of my nervous system. It made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. One Tuesday afternoon, Berger walked in my office. "Connor, there is someone downstairs in the lobby asking for you," he said, his brow furrowed slightly. A woman. She doesn't speak Icelandic, and she seems distressed. She says she is a friend from back home. My stomach did a slow, familiar drop. Did she give a name? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Lauren, Berger said. She told the receptionist she traveled a long way to find you. I sat quietly for a moment, my hands resting on the edge of my desk. The draft of a community center project lay open before me, the lines clean and precise. I could refuse to see her. I could ask security to show her out. But as I looked at the snow falling gently outside the window, I realized I didn't want to run anymore. Running implied fear. It implied that she still had some sort of power over me, that a single word from her could shake the foundation I'd spent months rebuilding. Thank you, Berger, I said, standing up and grabbing my wool coat. I'll go talk to her. I walked down the stairs to the lobby. The lobby of our firm was built of dark volcanic stone and floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a sweeping view of the harbor. Standing near the glass wall was Lauren. She looked smaller than I remembered. She was wearing a fashionable, expensive winter coat, but it was thin, entirely unsuited for the biting Icelandic wind. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was windblown and damp from the sleet outside. She was clutching a paper cup of coffee, her shoulders hunched as she stared out at the gray water. As my boots clicked against the stone floor, she turned. Her eyes, wide and red-rimmed, locked onto mine. For a fraction of a second, the old, instinctive urge to step forward and wrap her in a warm embrace flared up in my chest. But then I looked at her face, the pale, desperate exhaustion written in the lines around her mouth, and the urge died as quickly as it had come. Connor, she whispered. Her voice trembled, a puff of white mist rising from her lips in the cool lobby air. Hello, Lauren, I said. My voice was calm, flat, and steady. She took a step toward me, her hands reaching out instinctively, but I remained standing where I was, my hands slipped quietly into the pockets of my coat. She paused, her hands dropping back to her sides, a look of profound hurt crossing her features. You changed your number, she said, her voice cracking. I had to call your sister's husband's office just to find out where you had transferred. I flew 16 hours, Connor. I've been looking for you for 2 days. You shouldn't have come, I said quietly. It's cold here. How can you say that? She cried, her composure instantly fracturing. A few people in the lobby turned to look, and she lowered her voice, though the desperate intensity remained. You vanished, Connor. You canceled our wedding, packed your things, and left the country without a single word. Do you have any idea what I went through? The humiliation? The gossip? My mother was hospitalized from the stress. I listened to her, my mind registering her words, but my heart remaining entirely unmoved. I left because there was nothing left for me to stay for, I said. Because of a stupid game? She hissed, stepping closer. Because of some dumb texts? Jared is just a friend, Connor. We were joking around. We've always had that kind of banter. You knew that. You were always so sensible, so understanding. How could you let a silly misunderstanding ruin 7 years of our lives? It wasn't a misunderstanding, Lauren, I said, my voice dropping to a quiet, even tone. It was the truth. You didn't love me. You loved the fact that I was steady. You loved having a safety net while you built your real life around Jared. That's not true. She gasped, tears finally spilling over her cheeks. I loved you. I wanted to marry you. No, you wanted a wedding. I corrected her gently. You wanted a wedding where Jared chose the flowers, Jared chose the lighting, and Jared rewrote my vows. You wanted a wedding where I was just a name on the invitation, a quiet, sensible prop to make you look respectable while you spend your nights secretly kissing your best friend through an iPad screen. Lauren froze. The color drained from her face, leaving her looking ghostly pale against the dark volcanic stone of the lobby. You, she whispered, her lips trembling. You saw that. I saw everything, I said. I saw the text about my suit. I saw the receipt for the tie you bought him while you gave me cheap cufflinks I couldn't even wear. I heard you laughing while he mocked my vows. And I heard you tell him that touching me was something you had to brace yourself for. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no sound came out. The absolute assurance she had carried her entire life. The belief that Connor would always be there, always understand, always forgive, was crumbling in front of her eyes. Connor, She reached out again, her fingers brushing the sleeve of my coat. I was confused. I was stressed about the wedding. Jared. He was just there, and he made things feel easy. But it was a mistake. I swear to you, we never actually slept together. It was just talking. Just stupid flirting. It doesn't matter if you did or didn't, I said. And for the first time, a small, genuine smile touched my lips. The pain of it ended months ago, Lauren. I don't care anymore. That was the hardest part for her to accept. I could see it in her eyes, the realization that I wasn't angry. Anger meant there was still passion, still a connection, still a wound that could be healed with enough tears and apologies. But this was indifference. It was a clean, barren slate. I moved in with him, she whispered, her voice hollow, her eyes fixed on the floor. After you left. I had to. I couldn't afford our apartment, and I was so lonely, so scared. I thought, I thought maybe if we were together, it would make sense. I thought maybe he was the one. And I asked, genuinely curious in a detached, clinical sort of way. She let out a bitter, broken laugh, a tear running down her nose. He's a child, Connor. He doesn't know how to do anything. He doesn't pay bills on time. He got mad at me because I was crying about you. He told me I was exhausting and that he didn't sign up to be my therapist. He started seeing someone else 3 weeks ago, a girl from his gym. When I confronted him, he told me we were never official anyway, and that I should find my own place. She looked up at me, her eyes begging for a crumb of the sympathy I used to give so freely. I have nothing, Connor. My parents won't talk to me. My friends think I'm a joke. I'm completely alone. I looked at her, and for a brief moment, I remembered the girl who had driven across 3 neighborhoods in the middle of the night to bring me hot soup because I was having a nightmare. I remembered the warmth of her hand in mine during our first road trip. But that girl had died long before I boarded the flight to Iceland. The woman standing in front of me was a stranger, reaping the harvest of the seeds she had spent years sowing. I'm sorry you're going through that, Lauren, I said quietly. But you're a sensible girl. You'll figure it out. The use of her own word, the word she had used to dismiss my pain on the night of the party, wasn't delivered with malice. It was just a statement of fact. She flinched as if I had struck her. Is that it? She sobbed, her shoulders shaking violently now. 7 years, Connor. 7 years we built a life together. You're just going to walk away and leave me like this? I didn't leave you, Lauren, I said, stepping back slightly, breaking the physical proximity between us. You left me a long time ago. I just finally had the decency to pack my bags and clear the space. I looked at my watch, the simple, sturdy, wooden-faced watch I had bought myself with my first paycheck in Reykjavik. I have to get back to work, I said. My supervisor is waiting for these drafts. Connor, please, she pleaded, reaching for me one last time. Just one dinner. Just talk to me. Let me explain. We can start over. Here, in Iceland. I'll move here. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked into her eyes, searching for any lingering spark of the love I had carried for 7 years. There was nothing, just a vast, quiet emptiness. There's a cafe down by the harbor, I said, my voice soft and calm. The soup there is very warm, and the bread is fresh. You should go get some. The wind is very cold today. I turned away. Connor, she called out, her voice echoing off the glass walls of the lobby, desperate and broken. Connor, I didn't stop. I walked back to the stairs, my boots clicking steadily against the stone, and began my climb back to the office. With every step, the sound of her crying faded, growing faint, until it was entirely swallowed by the quiet hum of the building and the soft, steady rhythm of my own breathing. The spring thaw came late to Iceland, but when it arrived, it was magnificent. The snow melted from the dark basalt hills, revealing patches of vibrant green moss, and the harbor filled with the bright, screaming calls of the Arctic terns. One evening, after a long day at the firm, I walked out onto my small balcony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in a soft, warm gold that reflected perfectly off the quiet waters of the bay. It was the exact shade of lighting I had wanted for my wedding, the lighting Jared had said wouldn't photograph well. I looked down at the railing. Sitting in a small clay pot on the wooden shelf was a single, hardy mountain camellia. Its white petals were thick and strong, built to withstand the harsh northern climate, blooming quietly in the crisp spring air. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text from Berger, sending me the final approved renderings for our sustainable housing project. Berger, beautiful work, Connor. Simple, elegant, and built to last. You should be proud. I smiled, typing back a quick thank you before sliding the phone back into my pocket. I leaned against the wooden railing, taking a deep, clean breath of the sea air. The wind was cool, but it no longer bit. It felt like a gentle hand on my shoulder, welcoming me to the place I had finally, truly made my own. I looked out at the vast, open horizon, where the gold of the sun met the deep blue of the sea. I was Connor. I was steady, and I was finally home.